The definition of insanity is repeating the same action over and over again while expecting different results. But just tell that to the guys that work in those buildings. Hi, I'm Jake Hamilton here on Wall Street in New York City, where 22 years ago, Oliver Stone brought the war of finance to the big screen, and where our economy is in the worst state it's been in since Gordon Gekko taught us that greed is good. But now that cell phones are smaller and Wall Street's hunger has gotten bigger, Oliver Stone has to come back with a sequel. Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. And I'm here talking with the stars and director about why greed is no longer just good, now it's legal. Get ready, this is Jake's Takes.
Someone reminded me I once said, greed is good. Now it seems it's legal. Because everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid. Now, I've been considered a pretty smart guy. And maybe I was in prison too long.
One watch and one mobile phone.
But sometimes it's the only place to stay sane and look out through those bars and say, is everybody out there nuts?
You know, you've said on several occasions that you always felt people misinterpreted the original Wall Street, that you kind of made it as almost a warning of the dangers of this, war of finance, but people took it as encouragement to follow in the footsteps of Gekko. But those people who watched it are now the brokers. Are they the ones that will put us in the situation we're in now? Are we to blame, you and the original Wall Street?
Can I take that back, my original assessment? I think the original is this family story, I really do. I mean, the only thing that really interests people are people. And I think we had the story of the kid, Charlie Sheen, with his father, and he betrayed his father, Martin Sheen, and the union to advance his own cause with Gekko and the money. So I think that's what the root of it was. There, behind that was a background of a 1987 story about a new kind of trader, a new breed was coming in with Ronald Reagan and consumerism and big time money and buying out companies and trashing human lives. That was sort of the background. And now what happened, that went on for 22 more years until the crash of 2008. And hopefully we're seeing the end of that mentality. I don't know if we are. But it was a bubble, a big bubble of easy credit, dumb money from China, among other things, and no moral hazard, no sense of responsibility, bad banking, bad regulations, and bad enforcement of regulations, and changes in law. All this contributed. America was living way beyond its means, and I think had a major, major triple bypass on 2008. And now the bubble was given, the warning was given, the question is what will happen. That's the background for the new movie. But honestly, the movie is the same story in many ways about people trying to move through this tricky economic environment that we live in, all of us.
Gordon Gekko was one of the biggest names on Wall Street before he went to prison for insider trading.
That name doesn't mean anything anymore.
If it weren't for people who took risks, where would we be in this world?
You might want to wipe some of the drool off your face.
Do you look at your own money differently after doing this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the whole world differently now that I've done this movie. Like for instance, I'll give you, when Russia's burning, I see it on the news. My first instinct isn't necessarily empathy for Russia or, the people in Russia necessarily, which is horrible, but, Russia's burning and I think about wheat fields and I think about wheat exports and I go and buy wheat because I know wheat's gonna jump the next day. That's it informs your life. It really informs your life. And, yeah, I mean, I think also I wasn't informed coming in, and it was very easy to vilify these people in Wall Street and vilify capitalism and Wall Street as a whole. But, when you look at what Wall Street is at the face of it, really, it was created for just reasons. It was created to fund our wars and help our people. And capitalism was the initial, the impetus of the idea was a good idea. But it went haywire, and I think it's a much more gray area than it was before I came in.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of will and taste.
How relevant is greed is good since it was muttered back in the
A lot,
80s?
but a lot of these guys back then took it as some heroic quote. I mean, they've turned Michael into that character into this incredible iconic figure. And it makes sense because of how the economy was back then. Now there's such an implosion that greed doesn't have the resonance that it did before. But now we're dealing with such a large scope thing, and it's such a foreign labyrinth to most people that it's a great education. The movie is a great education to stay aware.
Well, as someone who has experience, I have one of my hard-earned dollars here.
You're gonna give it to me?
And I was gonna see what you would do with it and see if you could, you know.
I would put it in my pocket, and then, or I could give you 50 cents change if you want. So we can just be buddies, and you can give me 50 cents just because you like me.
All it costs is 50 cents to be your buddy?
Yeah. That's an investment too.
Gecko! My name's Jacob Moore. I'm gonna marry your daughter.
I've been around for
My daughter hasn't spoken to me in years, and you know it.
How old are you?
I did 22.
Fabulous. Look at you, all grown up at 22.
I do my
with
best.
this job.
I fake it well.
Interviewing me.
I know.
Fabulous.
I love the fact that your character kind of personifies the housing market and what's going on and everything right now. And
Yeah.
the relationship with Shia is this theme of, you know, my generation having to kind of pay for the sins of our parents.
I should be interviewing you. That's perfect.
Oh, I didn't know. But it kind of
No.
scares me a little bit. How scared should my generation be right now?
Very scared, Jake. Very scared.
That worries me.
Yeah. But you know what? Maybe what you should do is not try to have a plan based on making money. What you have to do is do something you really, really like. So if you really like this, you'll be really good at it.
I do.
And then you'll do fabulously. Because that's the secret. And I'm hoping more people your age will become entrepreneurs and do things they really care about, or teach, or do something instead of thinking that, you know, quick money is the answer, because clearly it doesn't work all the time.
Well, trust me, no one gets into journalism for the money, so
That's
it is
true.
truly for a passion, I promise.
That's true. Well, go for the truth.
I never knew my dad as a peaceful person. That always scared me.
pleased to meet you. Hope you get mine.
When you look at what Oliver Stone has been able to do with young actors when they were younger, when it looks at Tom Cruise or
Sure.
Charlie Sheen, even Johnny Depp in Platoon,
Sure.
does that make you look at your future career and how you kind of want to end up in the next coming movies?
No, I can't. I'm not, Miss Cleo. I can't foresee what's going to come down the pike. I know that I'm happy to be in this movie, and working with Oliver was life changing. But yeah, just all of his actors. You look at all of his actors. It's interesting. They all have like flaws, right? They're all kind of dark a little bit. There's a dark side to them. James Woods, Sean Penn, Nick Cage, Anthony Hopkins. These are guys who have, there's darkness, and I think that he likes flawed individuals, and so it's nice to be in that company. And there's not an actor in any of his movies that I don't respect.
I know it sounds crazy,
Oh yeah.
but people change.
Buzzing you with the nature of my.
I love that your mindset about money in this movie is more. It's always got to be more. It's always about more. Well, as a successful actor now, how difficult is it to not have that mindset of more and I need more and to make those smart choices?
I think it exists for sure. I think because of how I set myself up, I think I'm very conscious of that and fearful of that. And to constantly keep going back to, a lot of times, like, you'll see a filmmaker who gets away from his visceral core, and he starts making movies, and you just are confused why they're making those kinds of movies. And then if they're really great filmmakers, you'll see them make 2 bad movies or something, and then they go back to this amazing place. And you go, yeah, that's what we loved about him, because there's something so original and so gritty and so visceral about how they tell a story. So for me, it's the same thing. I think about, I'd like to do. I want to mention movies, but I won't. I'd
dude,
love.
it's just me and you talking, man.
Yeah, right. I'd love to do that movie, and I'm sure it'll be a huge success and it'd be good for my foreign sales or whatever that is. But I don't. I know I'll be in the middle of the film going, why did I do this? Why did I do this? I've been very, very lucky, with the exception of I think one movie, to be in the middle of whatever film that I've done in the last 4 or 5 years, and be so satisfied with what's going on and be so inspired coming to the set every day. It's great. That's what you want to do ultimately.
Right.
He's not who you think he is, Jake. He'll hurt us.
Why don't you start calling me Gordon?
I love the fact that you had just a few scenes, but the scenes, they were incredible.
Thank you.
And I feel like you probably didn't have much time to prepare for them. How much do you think your experience over the years has been able to help you be able to do that? Do you think the 20-year-old version of yourself could have just jumped into those scenes and done them
I
with
tell
such
you,
little time?
that's an interesting question, because on one hand, you have more confidence because you've done it more and you kind of know how you work. I never went to acting school or anything, so I had to kind of make up my own system. So you become better at getting from yourself what you need. But when you become well-known, your ego becomes harder to drop. It's harder to take risks because everybody expects a certain thing from you, and also they peg you, so they're trying to get you to do whatever you did that was that they liked before.
Right.
So you have to keep reminding yourself, stay hungry, stay foolish, and do, you know, make mistakes as much as you were willing to jump in when you were your age.
We're only part of the family business.
You got my attention. But when you don't know what you're doing, it's fatal, Mr. Moore.
When you look at Jake, this guy who had a modest beginning, had to fight to get where he was, is that something that you can empathize with? A guy who was not born into Hollywood luxury, you had to fight to get where you're at, and I mean, you've earned everything you have.
Yeah, I mean, I've also been, you know, it's kind of kismet. You know, I've been very fortunate and blessed to work with the people that I've worked with and be shepherded through this that way. You know, I've been very blessed, more so than I think Jake. You know, Jake had one mentor. I've had like 5 or 6. I've been really fortunate. Yeah, Jake is an idealist in a way that I'm not necessarily, you know, and, you know, driven. I think our drive is very similar. You know, and I think, you know, he does come from similar background in that, you know, his father was an alcoholic. My father's still alive and sober and happy and healthy, but his father wound up dying. Our mothers are completely different. You know, his mother was money driven. My mother is definitely not. Yeah, I think you know, the drive is similar.
So much you don't know, Jacob.
They took my life, and when I got out, who's waiting for me? Nobody!
This is not about the money. This is about you and me.
It's about doing the right thing.
It's about the game.
I want you to just kind of look at the Wall Street Journal from yesterday and think about what it looks like today and based off what it looked like whenever you made the original Wall Street. What kind of differences, you know, adjusted, you know, each movie?
It's more mainstream. The Wall Street Journal used to be an arcane, very serious, high finance journal that was read by a small group. Now it's become a major newspaper worldwide and very much mainstream news. So business news itself has subsumed the public interest. You see all the covers of magazines, you see millionaires and billionaires. There's
Right.
now 900 billionaires. Back in '87, there might have been 10 billionaires. So the world has been topsy-turvy. Business is at the center, and certainly people's well-being has always been foremost, but it's more centered now than ever on get it while you can, get on a reality show, make money. It's kind of ugly. You know, the society is vulgar in many ways, and I think the film reflects some of those changes. On the other hand, I do believe good people exist on Wall Street. It's not all bad, and I think most of them are good. And I think the kid, Shia LaBeouf, is a good, idealistic young man who really wants to do good. He wants to capitalize an alternate energy company. It's important. So there's Josh Brolin's the new Gecko. He's the bad guy.
But seeing Charlie made me a little bit sad to see how he turned out in the long run.
He didn't turn out for the best because he was, you know, Charlie at the movie was great. I mean, he was sleazy to begin with. You have to really, he was a corrupt kid. But then he found that his ways had betrayed his father and the union, so he felt bad and he reformed himself. But, you know, I think there's an essential character ingredient that comes out in this movie that you see in Charlie, which is more true to life.
I did tell you, Jake. I did warn you.
It's easy to get in. It's hard to get out.
Is that a threat?
Absolutely.